Now, let's move over to, I want to do this in a different slightly order than I've got it written down. So I want to talk about one of the questions you've put on here is why the Poch out calls are stupid. And I'm glad you've put it in that exact way. And how it is in front of me, because they are stupid, the calls. What's your thoughts on that, first of all? What's your thoughts on fans, Chelsea fans, match-going fans, or fans that are just sat at home, behind a Twitter image that isn't them, talking about, Pochettino out? What's your thoughts on that?
They're completely foolish and stupid. We lose 1-0 to Middlesbrough. They get their keyboards out, as their X, whatever you call it now, type in their little Poch out with a picture of his face and a big red cross across it. I don't really offer any kind of solution to it.
Yeah.
They don't want to stay patient. The same people who have like Eden Hazard as their profile picture, aren't really willing to be patient, aren't willing to kind of understand that we're going through this period and we're going to have to buckle up and be in it for a long time, because this is how it's going to be from now on. You can't expect us to sell almost your full starting 11 from last year, have injuries to probably your most important player, or who has been your most important player for the last couple of years in Reece James, and expect Pochettino to get results. He hasn't had a full, consistent 11 to kind of choose from, because he's been hampered by injuries throughout the season. And like I said, I still think we're playing better football than we have this year than last year. We lost 1-0 to Middlesbrough, but we created a lot of chances. And any other day, I think we're winning that game 4-0, 4-1, if Cole Palmer just finds his shooting boots on the day. We sack him now, then we find ourselves in the same situation as last season. Players that start to get unhappy that there's not really a consistency at the club. Also, who do you bring in halfway through the season? Who would be willing to come into this Chelsea project? And also, it's January now. You've got a manager who clearly hasn't had a say in the last couple of transfer windows. We didn't have a say in the summer of who we wanted to keep or bring in. Let him have a say now. Let him take control of the transfer market. Let him pick which players he wants to loan out, which players he wants to recall, which he wants to sign. I think I do like Pochettino. I think he's the manager for the job. I'm also fed up of these Poch out kind of tweets, because for me, they're not really real fans. And if they are real fans, they are the match-going ones. They're the toxic ones that just kind of tweet that for attention. I think after the game, like Middlesbrough's one of these days, I just wanted to stay away from Twitter and be like, no, I don't want to take part in these type of conversations. I don't want to be exposed to these type of tweets. So yeah, I'm completely against all these Poch out hashtags or Poch out tweets. So yeah, I'd rather stay away from them.
It's embarrassing. I mean, I think it's... Look, I'm not against anyone or policing or trying to be a gatekeeper for how, fans of any club want to voice their opinion or whatever else. But it's what you said at the very start of what you said. There's no solution to it. You are someone who's Poch out. Who are you bringing in? They can't give you a short list of managers, because actually there isn't that many managers out there that are willing to take this job on. Hansi Flick, I think, is one that I sort of come across yesterday. When I happened to go on Twitter for 10 minutes or so. Nagelsmann was one that people were still batting around, and there's just, look, I mean, Mauricio Pochettino clearly has to do better as a manager. I do question still. I do question how much involvement he has in the transfer discussions with the club, because you made a good point during the week around Ian Maatsen going on loan. I know Ben Chilwell's coming back into full team training now, but you look at Cucurella, Chilwell. Both of them able to be, is Chilwell still able to play, a large proportion of games this season? Probably not. Look at Cucurella. Ian Maatsen probably had a role to play. He was still at the club up until, a couple of days ago, but he was still on the bench and he was playing Levi Colwell still at left back. So I do think there's things that Pochettino can do. That experiment with Colwell playing left back hasn't worked. So address that. You've got Ian Maatsen there who can play there. So, bring him on, play him. I do question some things that he does tactically or his substitutions, but that's just, I'd question that if it was Ancelotti, if he was doing the same thing, or whoever. So I don't think it's an issue actually with Pochettino. I just think sometimes his hand's been, it's been forced, because you look at some of the injuries that we've had to play particular players out of position. But then there is options where you can bring players in. So I do get why people question Pochettino, but to say Pochettino out for me, and then to say, well, who would you bring in? And there's no answer. Then that tells me that you're just saying it for, as you said, for those sort of reactionary, let's get a couple of numbers on Twitter. I think Pochettino is a manager that is happy to do his job, try and do it to the best of his ability, but I think he's happy to allow the transfer. I mean, we've seen it with Conor Gallagher. You know, he's been asked a couple of times now in the last couple of weeks in the press conference, you know, does he want him to stay? You know, he's always saying it's between the club and the player. Well, I think Pochettino has to be involved in those conversations, because it's Pochettino that has to pick a squad and has to train these players with his coaching staff, and he has to have a role in that. And if he's not, then that worries me, because who's calling the shots, who's green lighting these signings, you know, who's sanctioning these transfers, who's giving a list of options to, you know, Paul Winstanley's and Joe Shields and whoever else is involved in making these decisions. So that worries me a little bit, but I'm not Poch out, because who do you bring in?
What's the solution?
What is the solution? And I think I look at, and I don't want to use them as a blueprint, because especially Arsenal, because I hate them, but you look at Arteta, and I still think even Arteta's not the right person for Arsenal now, but you look at how he's developed them over, you know, the course of time. There was a time when Arsenal fans wanted Arteta gone. You know, he got them an FA Cup, he's sustained a bit of European football for them. We have to give Pochettino the time. We have to, because if we don't, as you said, we're going to end up back in this vicious circle again of players coming in and out of the team, constantly just not having a consistent run of games. It's just not going to work. I don't think there's going to be, for me anyway, there's not going to be an opportunity for players to develop if we don't have the same manager in place all the time as well. So yeah, I think it'd be stupid to sack him. Who do you bring in? Who's on your short list of managers?
It's foolish, and I think the reason I wanted to cover this topic, and it really, I think, infuriated me, is when I saw someone even suggest Maurizio Sarri come back to the club.
I mean, this is the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. They offer these ludicrous solutions, like Jose Mourinho's name's been mentioned a lot, and I think it would just be crazy to hire him a third time. And just, I think we covered this before with the Bowley Mourinho, just kind of, they wouldn't gel together. One thing that Bowley did say recently, or the ownership have owned up to, is the fact that they were very unambitious, or too ambitious, with their goals for both Tuchel and Potter, which led to their sackings. So that's why they want to give Pochettino time. And I think even if we finish outside of Europe, which I think we still will, I don't think we'll get Conference or Europa League football. I think Pochettino will stay. But what I want to give him also, I want to see him have a full team of fit players.
Yeah.
For him to kind of feel the consistent 11 that for me will be our strongest 11. Because every single game we played this season, with Nkunku being injured, with Chilwell and Reece James out of the fold, we haven't been able to play our best 11, in my opinion. And that's what I want to see. And that's when I'll start to really judge Pochettino, once he starts getting consistent games with his strongest 11. Yeah,
it's a sensible option. I think it's the most logical thing to do. It's like asking a man to drive a car with 3 wheels. You know, you can't expect him to get very far. So, my only worry is at the moment is there's a lot of fans that may go to the games. You know, there's big channels now that they've almost turned it into Arsenal fan TV. There's people that feel like they're at Cobham every day and they're not even there. They're sat in their house somewhere, but they talk like they're in the know. And I think there's a lot of Chelsea fans now who are up and coming, you know, a lot younger than me and you, that hang on every word that they say. So, you know, I don't need to name the accounts, but there's accounts on there that you see them every day, you know, talking about latest transfer news, and they haven't got a clue, you know, or, you know, that they've managed at the top level themselves. They haven't. So we're not in these conversations with Todd Bowley and the ownership and Maurizio Pochettino. We don't know what happens. We just have to assume and speculate. But I do think that the fans now, you know, as you said, you know, some of them are stupid. They are. The fans aren't, but they are. You wasn't saying that, but the fans are stupid, some of them, because you know, they haven't got any logical answers to who comes in. You know, like you just said, we haven't actually... Pochettino hasn't had a injury-free squad. Graham Potter never, to give him his credit either. So we haven't really got to see consistently Nkunku playing with Reece James, with Ben Chilwell, with Enzo, with Lavia, with Caicedo, all fit. Wesley Fofana, Chukwuemeka.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any of these players play 4, 5, 6, 7 games together to get a bit of momentum to see what they can do. So to sack him, possibly you'd have to bring in an interim. I don't think there's anyone that would take this job middle of the season. It'd have to be an interim. You're probably looking at Sam Allardyce. Let's be honest. He's the only person I can think of that is stupid enough to take the job and get paid to do it. So do Chelsea fans really want that? Do they want Big Sam in the dugout against Fulham? I don't think so.
Big Sam, return of Frank Lampard, Gus Hiddink. These are just like average names you're listing here. So yeah, it's not. And then it's just all back to square one once you get a manager like that. So
stick with Poch.
It'd be so foolish. Stick with Poch, exactly.